So to continue with the insights of Rav Dessler, we're discussing the struggle between Yaakov and Esau. Can I ask anyone that's joined the shade to come a bit nearer, please? Uriah, can you come a bit nearer, please? Let's have Kiruv Rechokim. Those who are far should come near. It helps my voice. It's all this free on this side. Okay. We explained that the individuals of all mankind were brought into this life with a struggle. The human beings were referred to as a bundle of conflicting emotions. And the main conflict is between the power of good and evil within each person. And since the purpose of Am Yisrael is to strengthen the conscience, to strengthen the power of good, and the power of good in the conscience is the voice of God Himself within every human breast, then when the sages say that the name Israel is because you have had conflicts, the nation of Israel, with the powers of evil in the world, and you've been victorious to demonstrate the good will ultimately rule. That's the purpose of our nation. So, when Rivka, who had been reared in a home where there was a lot of deceit, the home of Lavan means white, tried to whitewash his deceitful intentions. Nevertheless, she had within her this very strong streak of loving kindness, which made her a suitable wife for Yitzhak. So then when she had pregnancy, it says, look it up in chapter 25 of Bereshit, verse 22. The embryos of the two boys inside her womb, they struggle. So the sages say when they pass by the entrances to places of Torah, Yaakov ran and tried to get out of the womb. When they passed by openings to idolatrous temples, then Esau tried to get out. So whatever they're supposed to represent, it presents us with a problem. Because surely we're told a description of what happens to the embryo before birth. A very deep description is given at the beginning of Tractate Nida, where it says that in the embryonic experience, the soul is shown the power of truth, the power of Torah. There's no freedom. No freedom as yet. Freedom of choice. Only had its first seeds when the baby is born, but even then, it only comes into play when the individual reaches da'at, which is bat mitzvah or bar mitzvah. Beforehand, there isn't really true freedom of choice. And it's even decided, there's there, that before the baby is born, there's already a malach who declares whether this baby is going to be rich or poor, strong or weak, wise or foolish, but does not declare whether it's going to be righteous or evil, Rosh or tzaddik, because that is only decided by the person himself. In fact, it says that the as yet unborn baby, the soul, is asked to make an oath, which we refer to in chapter 24 of Tehillim, which we recite on Sunday, where we say, Asher lo nishba lemirma, that a person has not taken oath in vain. Which oath is that? The oath that the soul gives to Hashem. Even the whole world says, become wicked, don't follow it, become instead righteous. According to the statement of Rabbi Chanina, Kol b'dei shamayim, what's yirat shamayim? Yirat shamayim, which means to choose virtue, is left to the person himself. It's not decreed. And that's only come into play later in life. So there's a lot of interesting aspect to this, these sayings of the sages. One of them, so it's worthwhile mentioning now already, is, I suppose we've spoken about it frequently, all of you know, that there's such a thing as near-death experience of the soul without the body. And the main popularizer of this, Dr. Moody, and many others as well, not so well known, have drawn a parallel between the experiences after death and experiences before birth. But it's also a soul experience without a material aspect to it. But meanwhile, we'll concentrate on the question that's raised here by Desna. The qualities with which a person is born, they fix the point of freedom, but not free choice itself. You've got to understand what's the idea of this, the wicked one, Esau, runs out to idolatry. And the righteous one runs out to learning Torah. So what's the hint that's given here? So obviously you can't take it literally. So therefore he says, these are all hints. The idea of hints given in a person's life through divine providence, that there is a possibility for a person to reach a very high level of virtue, but there's also a possibility to go the other direction. So it wants to demonstrate us the difference between Yaakov and Esau. That even if there's a certain hint, a certain point, where each one could have chosen vice or virtue, but one of them decided to choose virtue and the other one vice, we should know that every person is given freedom of choice according to the qualities that he's given. And sometimes a person is given a chance to reach a very high level of spirituality, But instead of that, he follows his own pride, and therefore he goes in the direction of vice. Sometimes a person is given a hint to follow virtue, and he picks it up and reaches a very high level. So the teaching behind here is that every person is given chances to go either in a very high direction or very low direction, for which he quotes here Yossi Mishita and Yakum Ish Tzeredos. This is a reference mentioned in Gemara, which happened in times of religious persecution, where there were some Jewish individuals who joined the traitors and started helping the religious persecution. But when they were given a certain hint that they should go in a good direction, they took hold of it and gave their lives for it and reached a very high level. Just to give one illustration, given here for Yossi Mishita. So he was asked to take out some holy vessels from the temple for Titus, who was destroying the Beit HaMikdash. He wanted the holy vessels. And they were a bit afraid, because some of the Roman soldiers who went in, they didn't come out alive. They decided, let's soon send this officer, a Jewish officer, who'd gone over to help the Romans to persecute the Jews, and ask him to go in and take out different holy utensils. They went in and came out with holy utensils. And then they said, well, this is not good enough, you must go in and take out the menorah. We want you to take that, so we can take it with us to the march which we're going to have to show our victory. So he said, I'm not going in. When he went into the holy place, he became filled with regret that he had profaned the holy aspects of Torah observance, and it was desecrating the temple. So he said, I'm not going. They said, well, if you won't go in, we'll depose you from high positions. I don't care. If you don't go in, we're going to torture you. They started torturing him. You have to go in. If you do it, if you own a court, bring out, we'll reward you. And if not, we're going to torture you further. They tortured him continuously until his soul went up to heaven and he reached a high level of holiness. Have you got any questions?
I have a question.
Yes?
Who was Rav Dressler, and why is it important for us to speak about him on a daily basis? What was his contribution?
Who was?
Rav Dressler, who was he?
Rav Dressler. Well, we've got quite a few copies in the Yeshiva of Strive for Truth. So if you look at them, there's also a biography of Rav Dressler in the Yeshiva. He was, in more recent times, probably the greatest exponent of the philosophy and psychology of the Muslim movement. So he was on a very high level of understanding of Musaf, Hasidus, of Kabbalah, and he was one of the greatest exponents in recent times of what we call Pnimiut HaTorah, the inner aspects of Torah thought. And his works have become very widespread and highly appreciated by all sections of those who deal with inner aspects of Torah. Any other questions?
I heard it's possible that you can change your mazel if you do good deeds and you do a sincere tshuva. You can sometimes change whatever is above us, what's going to befall you. You can change it. Is that true?
Yes. You say, Ein Mazel Yisrael. It means the concept of Mazel, which really means horoscope. In other words, it's an astrological concept, but it's understood by Jewish thinkers as being paralleled by what I might call scientific determinism. In other words, the concept of many ancient and medieval thinkers was that every human being is given certain qualities and certain destiny, and he can also it's also got power of choice within that destiny. Choose the destiny for good or for evil. But there's a further concept the sages say already by Avraham Avinu. Avraham Avinu, from a natural point of view, couldn't have a child. So some say his mazel, the mazel of Sodom, was not to have children. Naturally, they couldn't have children. But through their very high level of the service of Hashem, so Hashem changed their mazel. As we gave them the ability to have children, although it was regarded as a miracle.
Something connected, astrology, for example. If they say that if a boy is born under the mazel of Mars, the planet Mars, then he can be a shaykhid, a moral, he likes to get involved with blood. In other words, it doesn't bother him. So if you took statistics throughout our history, would you say that most of the butchers and the Moralim were a majority were born under Mars? Or?
Well, there were some of the greatest Jewish thinkers, including the Rambam, who say that astrology is just false. When the sages say you shouldn't follow the astrologers, some say it means all astrologers might have a certain truth, don't take notice of it. Let's instead follow the paths of the Torah, whatever situation you're in. But the Rambam and many other Jewish thinkers, and especially in modern times, when I suppose in the wider scientific world it's understood that astrology is really false superstition, and that was certainly the opinion of the Rambam, was probably the greatest thinker ever amongst Am Yisrael. He says the reason why the Torah emphasized you shouldn't follow any superstitions, including any astrologers, is not only because it will lead you in the wrong direction, you follow them, because they're not basing themselves upon true extension of human freedom, but also because it's based upon falsehood. So you can say like this: when the sages say that a person is born under Mars will either become a murderer or a dangerous robber, hijacker, he's out to kill, but he also become a surgeon, or become a mohel or a shochet. It does not mean to say that they believe in astrology. All it means there are different types of character. Certainly some people are aggressive, and other people are timid by their nature. So a timid person will find it difficult to become a shochet or a surgeon sometimes, if he's sensitive to seeing blood and seeing, any of the organs of the human body being cut off. So he might even faint if he sees a brit milah, yeah? And certainly a faint if he's got to go and supervise shoktem. Yeah? So it can be referring to certain nature that people have. So some people don't care. They've got more aggressive nature. So a person, chanoch l'nar pi darko, they say you should educate the child according to his nature, to go and give him the type of education that suits the qualities which are part of his basic constitution. And therefore, Esav is referred to, when he was reborn, he was entirely red and covered in hair, and similar expressions used for David HaMelech. But he used it for evil, used it for good. Any other questions?
Because that's his nature.
Yes.
If his nature is born that way, or if he's born in a place where the thieving and everything's going on, and he's not got much of a chance of becoming a Torah scholar. Where if he's born in Yerushalayim or somewhere where the rabbi, his father was a rabbi, his grandfather was a rabbi, then he's got a better chance of becoming a rabbi.
Yes.
So it's predetermined by his environment.
Well, it's influenced by the environment, not predetermined. Yes, there are plenty of people today who were not raised in a religious environment, but they chose to become religious. And vice versa has also happened. So we see human beings have freedom. In fact, we all know humans have freedom to go one way or the other way in many matters. They have freedom to follow their conscience, and freedom also to ignore their conscience. So from the point of human experience, humans experience freedom, but limitations, let's say. A person who wants to become a heavyweight lifter, and he's born weak, won't be able to, when he's in a weak situation, to go and compete with the greatest weightlifters. But he can make up his mind he's going to work in that direction, so he can change himself, take a different diet, work hard, choose. And certainly in the area of morality, there's freedom. And then today, some people know human beings have got the choice. Even if they're born in the Western world, where the practices of Desh seem to be like going back 2,000 years in the history of morals of the Western world, and there's so many Westerners joining them, and they're quite ready to go and kill in a cruel manner innocent people. And you make a whole show of it. Human beings, unfortunately, they're losing the awareness of the conscience. It happened also in Nazi Germany. You're going to tell me that people in Nazi Germany had no choice? They had choice.
It's distorting and destroying the conscience.
Yes.
Because a child of 3 years old, when they learn to fire an automatic weapon, a Dvar, he fires an automatic weapon. And another child, 5 years old, they give him 12 Assyrians in his hand.
They give him what?
Assyrian's head. They cut the Assyrian soldier's head off and they made a 5-year-old child hold it. That's sick. And another 10-year-old kid, they got him with a gun and he was shooting people in the back of the head. It's destroyed his conscience. He has no choice.
Terrible.
That's not human.
That's right. That's why here in this world to change and to do the opposite, go in the opposite direction, to strengthen the conscience, to strengthen the human responsibility. These things. No, we can't. You want to carry on?
I would have a short question
Yes.
also. I find interesting because you mentioned in Nazi also right now, nach Shema, that Moshe Rabbeinu, when he fought Amalek, when his hands were up, Israel prevailed. But when his hands went down because of the covet, because of the weight of the arms, actually his arms went down, then Amalek prevailed. And I was wondering whether there is a connection with this arm, because the Sieg Heil, as they said always, to salute Hitler,
Yes.
they stretched out the right arm in the hand. I don't want to do it, but we know what you're talking about. And I saw in the Torah there's also a concept of an outstretched arm, which saved us actually. So for me it makes very, very big kasha to bring all this together. This reality from the Torah that we were saved with an outstretched arm, but at that time this outstretched arm became the symbol of our innermost enemies. So what is this? I mean, to lift the arm, heaven was, let's say like this, actually it's a good thing. So how could this be the fatality for us? I heard that this
Well, it depends to whom the arm is stretched out. When Moshe Rabbeinu stretched up his hands, he stretched them up to Hashem. And Hitler, it's a worship of Hitler. Yeah?
But he was not.
They're worshipping Hitler.
He was just.
But that was the concept of the salute of Heil Hitler, was to recognize that he is the true master, the true God.
He was like a pharaoh.
Of course. Pharaoh of evil. Yeah. Well, with us, the hand is stretched out to Hashem. Right? I'll give you a deep explanation of this situation, how to overcome Amalek. Because it says, Moshe Rabbeinu held up his arms towards heaven. Whenever his arms were raised upwards, they were victorious. And when they dropped down, then they were defeated. So the Mishnah speaks about this. They said, what's behind it? Behind it is not the arm itself, but behind it is when Am Yisrael looked upwards to Hashem for support, then they were able to overcome Amalek. And if not, then unfortunately Amalek became stronger. So the whole brief passage concerning Amalek has got to do with the anti-Semitism of the nations. That means when Am Yisrael will look upwards to Hashem, he will give it support. When we forget about the hands of Moshe upwards, then unfortunately we are defeated by the powers of Amalek. So who held up the hands, the arms of Moshe Rabbeinu?
Yeshua.
It says in the Chumash.
Yehoshua and Hur.
No, Yeshua was in charge of the battle. But Hur, Aaron v'Hur. It says Aaron v'Hur tamhu b'yadav. Aaron took hold of one arm, and Hur of the other arm.
In Shifra.
Huh?
Hua in Shifra?
No, Hur.
Oh, Hua.
Aaron v'Hur. He was a trusted supporter of Moshe Rabbeinu Also afterwards, by the golden calf, he showed great Mesirat Nefesh to try and stop the golden calf. They say Aaron represents the power of peace, and Hur represented the power of removal from idolatry. Because that he lost his life. He was the husband of Miriam. Yes, so he was really brotherly. Hur was the husband of Miriam. So he was the brother-in-law, Moshe Rabbeinu, and Aaron was his brother. And they held up his hand. Aaron's method in everything in life was to pursue peace. Hur, if Am Yisrael started worshipping idols, he would punish them. And when he resisted the building of the golden calf, he tried to stop it, so they killed him. So we see he was very, very strong in keeping up the true faith. So therefore the Malbim says, it's these two powers, the one power of the constant pursuit of peace, loving kindness, but which has to be combined also with resistance to Am Yisrael succumbing to idolatry, going the wrong direction. We have to have a balance between the two. So whenever they were the strong ones and Am Yisrael willing to follow this path, then we can overcome anti-Semitism. But if they become too weak, then unfortunately anti-Semitism takes over. So it's a lesson for the day as well. Today we have to have, on the other hand, we want to do everything as far as possible, always in the way of peace. There's a general principle that we have to deal with anti-Semitism. We should not provoke the nations. Make provocation, not a good idea. But the way of Chazal is always to try to avoid Eva, to avoid hostility. For example, we know there are wild people amongst the anti-Semites. You see terrible people, they're just described. And don't provoke them. On the other hand, don't allow Jews to succumb and say, look, because we've got anti-Semitic environment, the best thing is we should assimilate, it doesn't matter, return to Christianity or return to Islam. Not that way, that is also not the way out. So this is an important lesson for the day. That's why, there was I would say a great recent philosopher in Fackenheim. So he said, we have to introduce a 614th mitzvah. After what the Nazis did, we have to have a new mitzvah. That's the new mitzvah.
To remember the Holocaust and to never let it happen again.
Yes, but really, he made a mistake. I've had some of my students who were close to my tomb. He's explained to him, he didn't know very much about Judaism. I mean, that's the mitzvah of we're going to have Parshat Zachor, always to remember Amalek. Yeah, until the time of Mashiach. This is a continuation of Amalek. Yeah, true. We shouldn't think, as we know, everyone asks the question, since you say from the time of Sancheriv, so you can't anymore distinguish amongst the nations of the world who's who. It even goes so far that in Halakha, even people who claim they're from the 10 lost tribes, halachically speaking, we don't accept them.
Wow.
Because they've got to have Geirot. Yeah. Well, they remember certain things that happened in between, but there's no clear distinction anymore of nations. Certainly, you can't distinguish between any of the ancient nations. They've all become intermingled. Even the 10 lost tribes also. We do have, for the tribe of Yehuda, for the tribe of Levi, there, so you can work out, for many of them, family trees which can be traced right to Adam HaRishon. Because of what? Why is it possible?
That's a good question. It's a very good question.
So what's the answer? Why is it possible? Because there are books, there's 2 books in the Tanakh which repeat history from the time of Adam HaRishon until the time of the building of the second temple. Yeah? Dvar Yamim, 2 books of Chronicles. Because there they go through family trees. It repeats also, gives extra aspects of Jewish history that took place in the meantime. But it does give the possibility to trace families. So my son Yehuda is one of the world's biggest genealogists. So he's produced family trees for many families, going right back to Adam. So you can work it out.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I have roots.
Yeah.
Very interesting roots. And I want to research.
That's right, you can trace your roots. But but the question is, so what is there such thing as Amalek today? If there's no such thing as the people of Ammon and Moab and Egypt, there's certain laws concerning Egyptian Gerim and so on. It doesn't apply today. And it apply. Edom, says Edom also not. But Amalek, surely also you can't trace Amalek. But the Rambam answers it. The Rambam speaks of the 7 nations, other nations say today, K'va'avat zichram. Their memories disappeared. But by Amalek, he says, the memory of Amalek is still there. What do you mean by the memory? The power of hatred of Am Yisrael as being represented by Hashem and the attempt to destroy the conscience of Elohim, that Zeicha still exists amongst the nations of the world. And when we think it's disappeared, it raises the ugly head again. After the Holocaust, I think most of human beings thought that's the end of it. But we see it's not. This extreme hostility towards the conscience, also especially towards the Jewish people, values, become so strong that we see this is the meaning of the mitzvah of blotting out the memory of Amalek. So, but the main way we can hope to do it, we've got to be very strong and follow the conscience and emphasizing it in our own lives. And even if we are, let's say, we are observing the Torah, but we should work hard to remove the external, not just think about the external fulfillment of the mitzvot, but also work hard to follow the conscience, which is the basic concept of purification of the midot. We have to try to purify each one on his level. People got different levels to purify, doing things according to the true conscience, each person at his level, what Hashem really wants him to do. A great help in all this is there's perhaps you've heard of him. There was an assimilated psychologist who was a really disciple of Freud, Viktor Frankl, who went through the Holocaust. And when he came out, he put forward called a new approach to psychology called logotherapy, man's search for meaning. And this he developed further into one of his major works, later, called The Unconscious God, where he explains that the conscious human being is the unconscious power of God in the world. And that's what we Jews have to promote. So, by becoming strong in this, in Yitzhak Hashem, we will overcome all the present terrible threats against the divine image of the human being.
Sure.
And I think I've listened to you already this year. Next week's Parsha contains so many important principles, including also, I think it's worthwhile if you so many important passages to choose from. But one which is quite important is the Parsha of